Hole were a band from LA who were fronted by Courtney Love, who was Kurt Cobain's wife at some point. The band also features Eric Erlandson as a guitarist and a number of drummers and bassists, most of whom were female. They were formed in 1989 and released 3 albums before disbanding in 2002. They rebanded in 2009 without Eric Erlandson, which may have been illegal because he had a legal agreement, and that lasted until 2012. During which time they released 1 album. The kind of there are hints that earlier lineup might be getting back together, so the status is in flux. Hi, my name's Dan. Hello to you. So this is the 3rd album by Hull, and it's not my first time listening to it. I'll explain. So I have a copy of this album, but I've hardly ever listened to it. I got interested in the idea of Hole and who they were, got a copy of this album, and then didn't actually particularly like it that much. So in principle, I like them and the idea, but as I said, I'm not been hugely impressed with this album. Maybe I should have listened to earlier albums of theirs. I will get the chance to listen to one much later on this list. Because there is one coming. So apparently this album is a big shift from the style of their earlier albums. And this could be described as power pop, I guess, or pop rock. On this occasion, so I'm still kind of exploring what I think is the difference between power pop and pop rock, if there is any. I think potentially the biggest difference is that pop rock is likely to be British and power pop is likely to be American. But I think that if there is a kind of difference in how heavy or how rocky it is, then this is rockier. So maybe this is power pop. I don't know if that works. If you've got any opinions on the difference between power pop and pop rock and whether I'm right or not on these things, please do leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from people who might know better than I do. It's back to this album. It's musically tight. It's occasionally fun. It's got a fairly nice crunchy bass. The bass and the drums are particularly tight together. The backing at times reminds me of Garbage, the British band, rather than the stuff that you throw in a bin. And yeah, it's sometimes leans towards grunge and heavy rock, but not that much. Sometimes leans towards more of the kind of rock kind of stuff. Again, it's somewhere in the middle, and it kind of whiffles around those. Unfortunately, when comparing to the band Garbage, I would say that this album doesn't have the same kind of level of bite to it, and I think that this is my big criticism. Really, is that it lacks bite. The vocals are okay. Again, they're not that special. They kind of reminded me of Cheryl Crow, not Cheryl Cole, Cheryl Crow. But without the same kind of, I'm not sure that Cheryl Crow's got that much gravitas, but this didn't have the same kind of feel of class to it as she does. I know some people don't like it. I like it quite a lot. Um, Given that I've just done comparisons with other acts, I'm about to say something that might be a bit disingenuous, which is I don't really like doing comparisons with other albums by the same band partly because a lot of critics do that. And I kind of steer away from feeling like a real critic. But also mostly because I think an album is a standalone experience. And unless you have a particular interest in the history of a band and the development of the band, which people do who are fans of that band, if you're just coming to an album as do I want to listen to this, then that is less important, I think. However, having said that, I am going to make a comparison here because at this point when I was writing my notes, I did just go and listen to a little bit of Hole from an earlier album. I listened to the first few bars, only a few seconds, of the track Violet, which is the first track on the Live Through This album. And my supposition, my idea that they've kind of lost bite, I think is pretty much spot on because that little bit had a lot more bite than this album does. So I feel like, in a bid to be more commercial, that they have actually become mildly insipid in this album. It feels like they lack heart, especially in the vocals, to be honest. So I wasn't hugely impressed. It's okay, but it didn't light me up, and that's I feel like it's a shame, because it has the potential to be. Maybe it's all in the production, and it's possible that that's it. Maybe it's in the conviction, in how they approach the music. That's what I think of this album. As always, at this point, I would like to invite you to tell me what you think of this album. So please do by leaving me a comment. The next review on this channel is going to be of the album B by the rapper Common. That's it from me for now.